Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Investing with Confidence, sponsored by Online Trading Academy. If you're a first-time listener, thanks for stopping by. As always, I am your host, Joshua David, and we are happy to have you with us today. I got my good friend, my good pal. We are both in blue. We are the Blue Man Group. We are back, and we are back with a vengeance. Al Connickson, how are you doing today?
You know what? I'm really doing well. Actually, I'm really loving what's happening in this market, and I know a lot of other people aren't. A lot of people are really concerned about what's happening, but this is just opportunity. This is sort of like Christmas every day for us.
It is. I'm really glad you brought that up because we're seeing some big moves in the markets. I mean, at one point, markets down, I think, starting on Monday morning, down total about 10, 11%. Little retracement in the early afternoon, but that's what it is. It's opportunities up and down. And that's some of the things that we're going to talk about here on Investing with Confidence is how investors have the opportunity to capitalize in up markets, down markets, and sideways markets. Great moves, just learning the skills and techniques to take part in those moves and not just buy and hope, waiting for things to happen. So let's talk about that here today. We have some stocks that we want to analyze here. We'll do the S&P 500 as always, kind of the driver, the lead dog of the markets. Moderna, Gap, Twitter, Viacom. If we get time, we'll even talk about silver and oil as well, the futures contracts. And that's another thing is multiple assets. We talk about stocks. It's also great to understand what the futures market is. Forex and options. So, Al, before we get started here, that S&P 500, wow! I mean, from the highs back in actually really the beginning of the year, and I actually just read a headline: is the worst start to a year.
Right.
Was it ever?
I'm not sure if it was ever,
close.
but it certainly has been a bad start to a year.
Yeah, very close.
I don't think people care. Excuse me. When the last time it was that we were this low, it's just that it's hit their accounts, their portfolios, and a lot of people are going to be impacted by it. A lot of people are going to be impacted by it in a good way.
Yeah.
So, the S&P 500 is kind of the one that people look at as being most representative of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 11 sectors there. Every one of those 11 sectors is down, Josh.
Yeah.
You mentioned the S&P being down around 10%. All of the indexes, the S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ, especially the Russell, they're all in correction territory, which is 10% or more drawdown.
Yeah, and we talked about last week, if it broke that level or that area of interest we were talking about, that especially the S&P 500, let's go back straight to the S&P 500, that level right around 4,368 to 4,347 roughly. If we've seen that get lower than that, we might see the floodgates open. Right. But there's opportunities if we do see a pullback a little bit higher. So with this S&P 500 going down now, and I think you got some material here today talking about how the majority of stocks, or a large number of stocks, are already down. What's been happening, there's been a few stocks keeping the market propped up. Well, that's changing a little bit. What's your insight?
Well, that's actually been the case since about 2009 when we came out of that last recession. There's just been a handful of stocks that have really driven this market, and that's been true of the last year, too. A lot of people just look at the market, the returns for the S&P, and they think that everything has been up because that's been up. But when you look at some of these stocks, there are about 20% of the S&P 500 stocks that have been down more than 10%, more than 20% actually.
Wow!
And there's 8 of them that have lost more than half of their value over the last year.
That's crazy.
That's significant. And we're talking some of them down around 70%.
Yeah.
So what that means is that there are a few stocks that are really outperforming. The majority are underperforming. And unless you happen to have your investments in something that incorporate or include all of those, the big returners, the ones that have really
the high
benefited,
flyers.
the high flyers, unless you've done that, you have probably not done very well. And a lot of people that we see coming into these workshops and these classes you're going to be talking about, they're saying, look, the market has been up really big. Why isn't my portfolio? And that's the reason, because they're not in those stocks, those high flyers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are not only in the S&P 500, they're in the Dow and the NASDAQ.
And the NASDAQ really has been taking a beating this past couple weeks here. I mean, just nice moves down. And people are probably listening right now. Why are we talking about nice moves down? It's a great opportunity. Before we get to that next section here, I want you to explain what it means to benefit in a down market, what the term is. Don't get too technical. I want to keep it light here because we're going to talk about that in these investing classes. But how do you capitalize in a down market?
Yeah, and there's more than one way, but I think what you're talking about is shorting.
Yes.
And that is a concept that if you want to be a trader, if you want to be a successful investor, you really should understand that concept, because not only can you participate with it, but it also impacts the way the market is going to be functioning. Shorting basically means the opposite of what you typically do. Normally, you buy something at a low price with the intent of selling it at a high price. With shorting, you just do the opposite. You sell something at a high price with the intent of buying it back at a lower price. The primary difference there is that you're actually borrowing something to sell with an obligation to buy it back.
Yeah, the concept doesn't make any sense, and we really cover that in these investing classes, Al. But so what you're saying basically is if an investor opens a position, let's just say at $200, and then they close it as it's after it's gone down at $100, that difference there, which is $100, that's the profit. So it's instead of going up, it's actually just going down. Yep. So it's really just another opportunity.
Yeah, and we don't mean to confuse you, because a lot of people right now are thinking, well, wait a second, if I sell something for $200 and then I buy it back at $100, haven't I just lost $100? And it's not. This is shorting seems like something that's illegal, but it's not. We'll go into detail on how to do that. Plus, we'll talk about other ways of benefiting or potentially benefiting in a down market.
Yeah, but the key also, Al, especially with people that have 401ks and IRAs, this market could pull back. Who knows? But you know what? Why not learn the skills and techniques to protect what you have? Because that's key. If you can't protect your capital, it's hard to earn it. So, Al, you were talking about this investing class that we do here in Bloomington. We have these 2-hour investing classes. We're near the Mall of America, right off 494, actually on our 25th year, teaching people how the market actually works, how it functions, ways to capitalize, or strategies to benefit in down markets and up markets. So you have strategies for every market condition. So it's the beginning of the show, and I have some tickets to this investing class for callers 1 through 10. When you call in right now, you're going to receive 2 tickets. I'm also going to give away a insider's kit that actually has some free stock picks. It's opportunities, just different trade setups, and it explains, there's a visual on why that's a potential opportunity. So call 952-814-4410. That's 952-814-4410. Or if you're a texter, just text the word invest to the number 484848. When you do that, you're going to receive a text right back with a link. You got to click the link. That will gain you access to the Insider's Kit and the stock picks, but you got to register for one of those classes. We do these on the weekdays and on the weekend. Al, coming up next, I want to continue talking about some of these stocks that have been down. Might be buying opportunities. Well, the market going down, are they shorting opportunities? Who knows? We're going to talk about that coming up next. Moderna and the good old company called Gap. 952-814-4410 for 2 tickets. This is Josh and Al. We'll be right back.